Now, imagine a time when there were no smartphones, no online stores, and no social media influencers. Yet, millions of ordinary Americans were finding ways to build real wealth. They weren't launching tech startups or creating viral content. Instead, they were solving everyday problems in their communities and getting paid handsomely for it. Some of the businesses you're about to see created fortunes that lasted generations. Others disappeared as technology changed the world. But every one of them proves that opportunity often hides in the simplest ideas. Here is the story of 25 forgotten cash businesses that made ordinary Americans rich. Before we start, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up because it might change the way you think. 1. Ice delivery. Ice delivery became a major business from the mid-1800s through the 1930s, especially before electric refrigerators became common. Families kept food cold in insulated ice boxes, and a weekly or twice-weekly ice route was part of ordinary life. Drivers hauled large blocks from ice houses or mechanically produced ice plants, then delivered them door to door, often collecting cash on the spot. In many early 1900s towns, a block of ice could cost around 5 to 25 cents, depending on size and location. The money was steady because ice was not optional in summer. It was a necessity. The product itself could be cheap in bulk, but delivery was where the value was created. A route with many homes and restaurants could generate dependable income all season long. Early operators used horse-drawn wagons, then trucks, and the best owners expanded into storage yards and multiple routes. In warm months, demand soared, and in many towns the iceman was as familiar as the mail carrier. 2. Milk delivery. Milk delivery grew into a powerful business from the late 1800s through the 1950s. Before supermarkets and widespread home refrigeration, milkmen delivered fresh milk in glass bottles directly to homes, usually before sunrise. Families left empty bottles on the porch and got fresh ones in return. A quart of milk in the early 1900s often sold for just 3 to 10 cents, but the real money came from volume and repeat customers. The business model depended on fixed routes and high customer retention. Dairies collected milk from farms, pasteurized and bottled it, then sent out drivers who delivered to the same neighborhoods every day. The cost structure was favorable because bottles were reused, routes were predictable, and customers paid regularly. Some dairies also sold cream, butter, eggs, and other staples, increasing each stop's value. 3. Newspaper routes. Newspaper routes flourished from the mid-1800s into the mid-1900s, when newspapers were the main source of daily news and local advertising. A route owner or carrier delivered papers before breakfast and collected payments weekly or monthly. Many households paid only 1 to 5 cents per paper in the early 1900s, but a route with dozens or hundreds of subscribers could still produce steady income. The money came from control of circulation. A route with many subscribers was valuable because it brought in steady fees and helped newspapers sell advertising. In larger cities, publishers and route managers could build real operations around neighborhood coverage. Some people started as carriers and later owned multiple routes, turning paper distribution into a business empire. 4. Chimney sweeping. Chimney sweeping was essential from colonial times through the early 1900s, especially when wood and coal were the main home fuels. Every heating season created soot, creosote, and fire risk. Homeowners paid sweeps to clean flues, inspect chimneys, and prevent dangerous blockages. In many towns, a routine chimney sweep might cost around 50 cents to a few dollars per house, depending on the work. The trade required little expensive equipment, which helped profit margins. Brushes, rods, ladders, and labor were the main tools. Some sweeps also repaired masonry or handled emergency jobs after chimney fires or poor drafting. Because the work protected homes from damage, customers were willing to pay for it. 5. Knife sharpening. Knife sharpening was a strong cash trade from the 1800s into the mid-1900s, especially in towns where kitchens, farms, butchers, and restaurants depended on sharp blades. Traveling sharpeners often rolled into town with whetstones or grinding equipment, while others operated from small storefronts. They sharpened knives, scissors, chisels, and farm tools, usually charging 5 to 25 cents per item or a bulk rate for shops. This was a beautiful little business because the equipment cost little and the value was obvious. A sharp knife saved time, improved safety, and made work easier. Customers paid per item or in bulk, and commercial clients returned often. Butchers, barbers, restaurants, and households all needed the service. 6. Shoe repair shops. Shoe repair shops thrived from the mid-1800s through the 1950s, when shoes were expensive enough that people preferred repair over replacement. Cobblers fixed soles, heels, stitching, straps, and worn leather, often on a daily basis. In many cities, the shoe repair shop sat beside tailors, hatters, and barbers in a cluster of small service businesses. A simple heel repair might cost 25 cents to $1, while a full resole could cost $1 to $3 or more. The economics were powerful. Materials were relatively cheap, but skilled labor was valuable. A cobbler could buy a pair of shoes for a customer, repair them, and keep that customer for years. Commercial clients such as workers, hotel staff, and delivery men came back often because they wore out footwear quickly. 7. Watch repair. Watch repair was a respected and profitable trade from the late 1800s through the 1970s, when mechanical watches were essential tools rather than fashion accessories. Pocket watches and later wristwatches needed cleaning, adjusting, spring replacement, and precision repair. A basic cleaning might cost $2 to $5, while a more serious overhaul could cost $10 or more depending on the movement and damage. The business was profitable because the skill barrier was high. Not many people could repair tiny gears and balances, so customers paid for expertise. In many towns, watchmakers also sold jewelry and watches, creating more revenue from each customer. Railroad workers, professionals, and merchants relied on accurate timekeeping, so good repair mattered. 8. Blacksmithing. Blacksmithing was one of the foundational trades in America from colonial times through the early 1900s. Before mass manufacturing, blacksmiths made and repaired tools, horseshoes, wagon parts, hinges, chains, hooks, and farm equipment. A horseshoe might cost 25 cents to $1 depending on the era and region, but in a farming town with many horses, repeat work added up fast. The old blacksmith shop was usually centered around a forge, anvil, hammers, and tongs. Farmers brought broken tools, wagon owners brought damaged parts, and farriers came for horseshoeing. The business paid because it solved problems immediately. A farmer who needed a plow repaired could not wait weeks for factory shipping. 9. Typewriter repair. Typewriter repair became important from the 1890s through the 1970s, when offices, newspapers, law firms, schools, and government agencies depended on typewriters every day. A broken machine could halt work, so repair technicians were valuable. They cleaned, aligned, lubricated, and replaced parts with a precision that required training. A repair might cost $3 to $15 or more, depending on complexity. The business worked especially well because office equipment was expensive and hard to replace instantly. Repair contracts for businesses could bring steady recurring income. Some technicians serviced fleets of machines for schools or government offices, which created dependable work. 10. Coal delivery. Coal delivery was a major business from the mid-1800s through the 1950s, especially in cities and colder regions. Homes and businesses used coal for heating, cooking, and boilers. Coal merchants sold by the ton or half-ton and delivered it by wagon or truck, often into basements or storage bins. In many places, coal could cost a few dollars to around $10 or more per ton, depending on the time and location. The business made money because demand was seasonal and predictable. Winter meant fuel, and fuel meant delivery. Coal merchants who had supply arrangements with mines or wholesalers could buy low and deliver at a markup. Some also sold wood, kindling, and stove-related services. 11. Well digging. Well digging mattered from colonial times through the early 20th century, especially in farms, frontier towns, and rural communities without municipal water. Water was life, and the person who could find it had serious value. Early wells were dug by hand. Later, drilling rigs made deeper and more reliable wells possible. Costs varied widely, but a well was often a major investment, sometimes running from tens to hundreds of dollars depending on depth and difficulty. The business operated on trust and local knowledge. A well digger needed to understand soil, rock, groundwater, and seasonal conditions. Payment often depended on depth and difficulty, and good drillers could command strong fees because they solved a problem no one else could solve easily. 12. Wagon building. Wagon building was a major trade in the 1800s and early 1900s, before automobiles replaced horse-drawn transport. Wagons carried families, freight, farm goods, and deliveries. Builders needed carpentry, metalworking, wheelwrighting, and often upholstery skills. A simple wagon could cost tens of dollars, while a strong custom wagon or commercial rig could cost much more. The money came from custom work and repairs. Farmers needed durable wagons, merchants needed delivery carts, and transport businesses needed fleets. A wagon was not cheap, so builders could earn substantial margins on each sale. Repair services also brought repeat customers. 13. Fur trading. Fur trading dominated large parts of North American commerce from the 1600s through the 1800s, with strong profitability in the 19th century. Beaver, mink, fox, and other pelts were valuable for hats, coats, and luxury goods. Trading posts and networks connected trappers, indigenous suppliers, frontier settlements, and export markets. A good pelt could bring a few dollars or more, depending on species and quality. The business was built on supply control. Traders exchanged goods like tools, cloth, and ammunition for pelts, then sold them at higher prices in larger markets. Big companies made fortunes by controlling routes, posts, and shipments. The more remote the area, the more power the trader had. 14. Fishing supply stores. Fishing supply stores became important in coastal towns, lake regions, and river communities from the 1800s through the mid-1900s. Commercial fishermen and recreational anglers needed nets, hooks, lines, bait, rope, hooks, oil, and gear repair. Small tackle items might cost only a few cents, while nets and larger gear could cost several dollars. The business made money through repeated consumable sales and service. Nets wore out, bait had to be replenished, and gear always needed fixes. Store owners who understood local fish, seasons, and boats built loyal customer bases. In some places, the shop also handled ice, catch storage, or boat-related supplies. 15. Broom manufacturing. Broom manufacturing grew from a cottage trade into a real industry in the 1800s and early 1900s. Before vacuum cleaners, every home, shop, and factory needed brooms. Makers used broom corn and bound it to handles by hand or with machines. A broom might sell for 10 to 50 cents, depending on quality and era. The economics were attractive because broom materials were cheap and demand was constant. Brooms broke down, wore out, and had to be replaced. That meant repeat business. When manufacturers scaled up, they could produce large volumes at low unit cost and sell broadly through merchants and catalogs. 16. Candle making. Candle making was central to daily life from colonial times through the early 1800s, and it remained relevant well into the 19th century. Before electric lights, candles lit homes, churches, inns, and workshops after dark. Chandlers made candles from tallow, beeswax, and later paraffin, using dipping, pouring, and molding methods. Candles could sell for a few cents each or by the pound. This business worked because light was a basic need. The raw materials could be inexpensive, especially when using animal fat byproducts. That gave chandlers strong margins if they controlled supply and production well. 17. Soap making. Soap making expanded from household production into a major commercial business during the 1800s and early 1900s. Soap was essential for washing clothes, bodies, dishes, and workspaces. Industrial soap makers used fats or oils mixed with lye to create bars, blocks, and specialty cleaning products. A bar of soap often sold for a few cents to a few dimes in older periods. The profit model was strong because soap was consumable and repetitive. People ran out and bought more. Institutions such as laundries, hotels, hospitals, and factories needed huge quantities. As branding improved, companies could sell the same basic product at different prices depending on scent, packaging, and reputation. 18. Beekeeping. Beekeeping became more productive in the 1800s, especially after the movable frame hive spread in America in the mid-19th century. That innovation allowed beekeepers to harvest honey without destroying the hive. Honey and beeswax were valuable products, and in older days both had wide uses. Honey often sold for 10 to 30 cents per pound, with beeswax adding more value. The business worked in several ways. Beekeepers sold honey, beeswax, and sometimes comb honey. Beeswax went into candles, polish, and cosmetics. Later, pollination services became a major source of income as agriculture expanded. Hives could also be moved to different crops for seasonal contracts. 19. Leatherworking. Leatherworking was a core trade in America from colonial times through the early 20th century. Shoes, belts, saddles, harnesses, bags, and work gear all depended on leather. Tanners turned hides into usable material, and leatherworkers shaped it into finished goods or repaired worn items. A belt, harness, or boot could cost several dollars or more, depending on quality and detail. The business paid because leather products were durable, necessary, and often expensive. Farmers, teamsters, soldiers, and merchants all needed harnesses and boots. Repair work was especially profitable because customers often preferred to fix leather goods rather than replace them. 20. Tailoring. Tailoring was essential through the 1800s and early 1900s, before ready-made clothing became widespread. A tailor measured customers, cut cloth, sewed garments, altered old clothes, and repaired wear. Alterations might cost 25 cents to a few dollars, while a custom suit could cost several dollars to much more, depending on fabric and craftsmanship. The business model was built on skill and trust. Tailors served professionals, families, and institutions, and a good tailor could keep customers for years. Bespoke suits and formal wear brought in high margins, while alterations and repairs created repeat business. 21. Printing press shops. Printing press shops were among the most powerful local businesses from colonial times through the early 20th century. They produced newspapers, handbills, invoices, business cards, books, church programs, political flyers, and commercial forms. Small print jobs might bring in a few dollars, while larger runs could bring much more. The money came from both production and influence. Printers charged for jobs, but they also sometimes owned publications, which gave them advertising revenue and local power. Equipment was expensive, which meant serious operators had a barrier to entry protecting them from casual competition. 22. Sign painting. Sign painting thrived in the 1800s and early 1900s, when businesses needed storefront signs, wagon lettering, painted advertisements, and billboards. Before digital printing and vinyl graphics, everything visible was hand-painted. Small signs might cost a few dollars, while larger storefront or billboard work could cost much more. The business paid because visibility drove sales. Merchants needed to attract customers, and a good sign was part marketing, part craftsmanship. Painters also worked on windows, delivery vehicles, and building exteriors. The most skilled painters developed recognizable styles and could command premium fees. 23. Furniture repair. Furniture repair and upholstery were strong trades from the 1800s through much of the 20th century. Before cheap disposable furniture became common, people fixed what they owned. Chairs were re-glued, springs were replaced, wood was refinished, and upholstery was redone to extend the life of a good piece. A simple repair might cost 50 cents to a few dollars, while full reupholstery was more. The business was profitable because labor had value and materials were often modest. A skilled repairman could turn a broken chair or worn sofa into a usable item again. Hotels, theaters, and families with quality furniture all created steady demand. 24. Scrap collection. Scrap collection became a real money business in the industrial age, especially from the late 1800s through the 1900s. Collectors gathered metal, paper, rags, glass, and other reusable materials from homes, factories, rail yards, and construction sites. Buyers often paid a few cents per pound depending on the material. The business worked because the collector paid little or nothing for the goods and sold them into organized recycling and manufacturing markets. During wartime, scrap became even more valuable, and many collectors benefited from shortages and high material demand. Routes, sorting, and volume were the keys to profit. 25. Mobile tool sharpening. Mobile tool sharpening was a clever route-based business in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Instead of waiting for customers, sharpeners traveled to them with portable grinding equipment. They serviced knives, scissors, farm tools, butcher blades, and shop equipment directly on site. A sharpened blade might only cost 5 to 25 cents per tool, but the convenience kept customers loyal. The business made money through convenience and repetition. Restaurants, farms, and workshops could not afford dull tools, and they often needed frequent service. A mobile sharpener could complete many jobs in a day with little overhead beyond the machine and transport. Most people assume opportunity only exists in the newest industries. But history tells a different story. Again and again, ordinary people built extraordinary wealth by solving simple problems in their communities. Some of these businesses disappeared, others adapted, and a few are still quietly generating income today. The next great opportunity might not be hidden in the future. It might be hidden in the past. Which forgotten business surprised you the most? Thank you for watching. To my lovely fans, your support means the world to me, and I couldn't do this without you. Your likes, comments, and shares keep me motivated to create more stories. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on any of my new stories. Thanks. See you in our next story. Bye.